The word devil makes some of us drop to our knees. Some of us don't kneel. We build our altar from the church's broken pieces. The witch's devil isn't the red cartoon you've been taught to fear. He's older. He was here before this, before all their crosses. When the church called people witches, this was their figure they blamed it all on. The devil at the crossroads. The ones they feared enough to hang mothers, children, midwives, healers. And let's be clear, he isn't just a story, he's a force. Tonight I'm going to explain what and who the witch's devil really is, where he came from and why he was feared, and no matter how much they prayed, why they couldn't get rid of him. So the witch's devil isn't just one face or name, he's lots of stories blended into one. Across Europe, people had local spirits and gods, horned figures, forest lords, wild tricksters, powers tied to land, storm, the hunt, and death. When the church came in, they looked at it and said, that's the devil. In England, he was often known as Old Nick. He had names in Cornwall, France, Scotland, and many other places. He showed up as a horned figure meeting witches in the middle of the night. He wasn't new, he wasn't imported, he was already there. The church just needed one name to put on everything they couldn't control. He's tied to everything they tried to make untouchable, though every prayer they used against us can be flipped and turned dark. Every holy thing they built can be flipped and turned into power. And that's why they feared him, and that's why they feared witches. This part is important. The witch's devil is not the same as the church's Satan. Satan in their world is about punishment, obedience, sin, hell. The witch's devil is about standing outside of all of that. He is a figure of the wild, of power outside their rules. And he isn't sitting on a throne of fire. He's waiting at the edge of the village where the church walls don't meet. When people or witches say they met the devil, they weren't talking about the church's monster. They were talking about that edge, that power, that presence. When witch trials happened, the same story showed up again and again and again. A figure appeared, a pact was made, and a mark was left. In the courtroom, this was spun into signing your soul to Satan. But real folk magic isn't that theatrical. A pact is an exchange, it's a binding, and it's serious. The accused witches were often healers or cunning folk, people who worked with spirits. They made deals, gave offerings, asked for protection, power, healing. The church took that and they twisted it. And yes, there is truth, and people do avoid saying this. His power can be very dark. It's sharp and can be used to invert everything they call holy. The witch's mark was one of the big proofs in trials. They'd search bodies for scars, marks, and say it was the devil's mark. But most of the time, those were just normal body marks. Symbolically, though, it represented a bond, a claim, a power shared with the witch and what they worked with. Familiars, people called them demons, but in real practice, they were spirit allies, sometimes seen in animals like cats, toads, hares, crows. They were part of a witch's work. Yes, witches gathered in secret, in the woods, the hills, a place outside of their control, and that terrified them. The witch's devil is feared because he gave power to the people they didn't want to have it. Women, poor women, outcasts, midwives, witches. He didn't need a church, he didn't ask their permission, he didn't follow their rules, and that made him dangerous to their power. They didn't just fear him because he stood outside their walls, they feared him because his power could burn those walls down. He isn't gentle, he isn't forgiving, he's everything they called unholy. And that is exactly why witches turned to him when they were pushed out. Working with him, no, isn't soft. It's not a cute little story. This is dark magic, and it is sharp. And it will bite if you're not ready. Pacts are dangerous, they are serious, and they can be binding. And you don't promise what you can't pay. You don't call what you can't carry. And you don't kneel to anything that can't meet your eyes. They tried to chain the devil and they tried to burn the witch, but he walks, and those of us that walk with him, we rise. Call him devil, call him nothing, it doesn't matter. The crossroads belong to those of us who aren't afraid to stand in the dark.